Call the meeting to order, the special Board of Commissioners meeting. And I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldridge,
I am present, but for some reason my camera is not working. Can anyone else see me? I can't see myself on this end. I'm not sure if you guys can see me.
No, we can't see you.
Okay, go ahead. I'll fix it. I'll try to see what the problem is. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
Commissioner May,
Present.
Commissioner Unger, Mayor Wilkerson.
Present. Looks like we have a quorum. And first item on the agenda is executive session. I'll entertain a motion to move into the executive session.
I would move that we go into executive session. I think I have to read the section number, don't I? I would move that we go into executive session per KRS 61-8101F, personnel discussions which may lead to appointment or dismissal of an employee regarding the status of the interim city manager and new city manager position. Action may be taken only during open session. That'll be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, we are now back in open session.
Mayor, do we need to let Mr. Russell know that he can rejoin?
Yes. And
Mayor, staff has been advised.
Thank you, Bobby.
Should I wait to make a motion?
we're ready. We will entertain any discussion or motions.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to hire Tommy Russell as full-time city manager starting April 1st, 2021 at a salary of $130,000. And I'd like to direct the city solicitor to work on the terms not to exceed 60 days.
We have a motion. Okay, we have a motion to hire Tom Russell as the full-time city manager for an annual salary of $130,000, not to exceed a term of 60 days. And we have a second. Any other discussion on this? I'll ask the clerk to please call for a vote.
Commissioner Waldridge,
I would like to vote no, and my reason for voting no is I have shared on this piece numerous times, many facts, many numbers and evidence that best represent our taxpayers' dollars, as well as the day-to-day functioning of our city to advance forward in the right direction until a city manager is hired. This has been in the works since the last commission to have Tommy as city manager. And I was hopeful that this commission would make wiser decisions within all the information given. However, we're here against a tight deadline of a 5-day, 3 working days to come to make a decision. So I'm voting no. This is madness. I think that it lowers the discretion of our city manager position as hiring someone who does not have the qualifications on paper. As far as I'm concerned, to be a city manager, we have a competent assistant city manager. As to the reasons when we become a city in this situation, we hand it over to her, and Laura, our solicitor, Miss Laura Ross, is very competent to handle this job for the next 30 to 60 days. Once again, we have put a deadline on that Laura could definitely handle. And I think that this is just continuing on with the last city commission's madness, and I will not support it. And I don't think that our community should be happy with the decision. I appreciate Tommy and all that he has done and things of that nature, but I do think this is not in the best interest, regardless of what anyone says, for our city. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson,
I would like to vote no, echoing some of what Commissioner Waldridge said. This is not a fiscally responsible decision that is being made by the city commission. It is not fair to the local citizens. This decision will cost us significant amounts of money that do not necessarily need to be outlaid. just the initial motion is going to trigger immediately tens of thousands of dollars that will have to be paid to Kentucky Retirement Systems, and then continued pay and perhaps accrued leave time that add up that we have to pay out at some point. It is extremely unfortunate that we have got to this point. We made this motion in one of our first meetings as a city commission to correct the wrongs of the previous commission, and it was shot down by 3 members. And the reason being is that we knew we were going to get to this point in March, and here we are. And now this decision is going to cost us significantly. I believe staff is competent. I believe Solicitor Ross is more than competent to handle the day-to-day and to delegate what she can't. And I believe other members of staff are able to step into those roles. I do believe Mr. Russell has done a fine job, but it is not what is in the best interest of this city, and I cannot agree to this particular motion, so my vote is no.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and I'll explain my vote. I do believe that staff is competent, of course, but I also feel like the continuity is important right now. And I feel like that this is, frankly, I feel like that this is going to help the staff, and that's what we're looking to do right now. This is not a permanent decision, but I do think it is in the best interest of the city right now. So I vote yes. And then the motion carries.
There's discussion afterwards. I would like to mention something afterwards.
I think you had your opportunity when you voted.
No, there's discussion after a motion has been passed.
We're moving on to, we have another item on the agenda, the approval.
Okay, that's fine. I have one other question for this mayor, for the discussion after the motion has been passed. And it's basically for our, I guess, recently voted in city manager. I have a question for him. I don't see on the screen, but that's not to say that he's not there, because I am working under circumstance. I've had computer problems at home as well. So, but my question would be for the new announced city manager. Given the circumstances that this has happened in the past city commission and coming forward, we are now in open session, and I would just like to know from this city manager, were you asked if you were interested, if you would be interested in becoming city manager before or after Mr. Parker was fired?
I think this is out of order, and you had the opportunity to ask that some other time, and you didn't. So
I don't think that anyone wanted the answer to that. Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you.
It's out of order, and we are, the decision has been made and the motion passed. The next action item is the approval to purchase 60 Dell desktop PCs, not laptop. Yes, Commissioner Unger.
Can I go ahead and make a motion to direct staff to work on setting up interviews for the city manager hiring?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I skipped over that. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the agenda. Sorry. That's the next action item up, is the timeline and process for hiring a new city manager. Sorry, I overlooked that. Thank you, Commissioner Unger. So let's open this up for discussion. The timeline and process for hiring the next city manager. Commissioner Thompson.
In closed session, we discussed 7 possible candidates. I think that those are the folks that we should look to interview and bring those people in for interviews. I personally believe that we should have a citizen portion of that interview process. I think that's important. I personally would like to see the mayor, with the assistance of the commission, name a set number of people to be on that interview committee, so that they can give uh, their ideas and their advice regarding these individuals. So I would like to see that happen. I don't know what the remainder of the commission thinks.
Mrs. Fields, so the last time, and the precedent is we have the city staff, department heads, they conduct, their own, they have their own meeting, interview with the candidates, and then we also have community members. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We've had exactly what you said, the department heads, and then a panel of community members selected by the board meet informally. I wouldn't even necessarily describe it as an interview so much as maybe
Right.
just a discussion. And then HR has collected feedback that they have then given back to the board to take into consideration as they make their decision on who they'd like to select.
That sounds agreeable to me. Any other discussion on that? I guess we need to decide how many community members. Last time, did each commissioner pick a couple and maybe not to exceed 10?
My recall isn't perfect. I know that all of the board members were invited to provide names. I'm not sure that everyone actually did so, because as some provided names, others, I believe, felt like they were the same as they would have suggested, and so they just passed. So I think it was opened up to all board members to invite people, but I don't even know that it was as large as 10, frankly, maybe 8 or something like that.
Yeah. I'm open to suggestions on this if anyone wants to. Yes, Commissioner Thompson.
I think if each of us are allowed an individual to be put on that group, I think that's fair. That would be 5. Each of us would essentially choose a citizen surrogate, if you will, to be on that group. And I think submitting those names to you, Mayor, I would say by close of business Monday would be plenty of time to do that, to find an individual for each of us to do that.
Sounds good. Commissioner Unger?
I am a little worried, just because of schedule and everything. Maybe be good to provide 1 or 2 or 3 just in case schedule didn't work out for them. But I was also wondering if these were normally city residents, or was that ever discussed previously?
I don't know that it was discussed, but I also believe they were city residents. That seems logical to me that they would be city residents. And there has been representation from partner agencies as well, such as KCDC, tourism, so forth.
Any other discussion? I agree. I think city residents make sense. Partner agencies, would they be in addition to the 5 community members? Maybe put the partner. Yes, Ms. Boyd.
Mayor, I'm friends with R.B. Brown, and I believe that he was on the committee before with the former commissioner. So I'm sorry, former city mayor's manager. I'm tongue-tied this afternoon. So you might want to consider not even, maybe they don't have to be a resident, maybe someone that has a business downtown as well might be some folks you could consider as well. So just thought I would let you know. I know he told me that he was on the committee the last time. So
Yes, he was my candidate. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll each nominate a person. City resident. Do we want to have someone who owns a business or downtown? Or, I mean, in the city, sorry.
Mayor, does this need to be in the form of a motion that we are entertaining to maybe Solicitor Ross can?
Well, that's what do we need a motion to discuss this? That's what I think I'm working
Yeah.
to get us toward a motion.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm sorry, was there a question for me?
Well, do we need to make a motion to discuss this, or are we, I'm working toward a motion for the timeline and process for hiring, so that we can make a motion to instruct Mrs. Fields to move forward.
We don't need a motion at this time just to discuss. We'll need a motion at some point to direct Ms. Fields to move forward.
Okay. So we're going to each put forth a name. We'll include partner agencies. Have to be city residents, potentially, if they have a city business, that be considered. And then a timeline. When are we looking to do these interviews and discussions? Commissioner Thompson.
How does the rest of the commission feel about these afternoon meetings that we're doing? It seems like we're all we've all got ball games and events going on throughout town each night. I wonder if meeting at 3 or 4 o'clock to do these interviews and maybe a couple in a row is better for the rest of the commission, and what everybody feels about that. It would help me out tremendously. I think doing 3 o'clock on these afternoons to be able to at least get started, and probably some of our city members that we might add. So I would just suggest that and see if we can do that instead of adding on additional 5, 7 o'clock meetings during the week.
I agree 100%. I think if we can do these during the day, let's do it. And that's up to the rest of the commission.
I would agree on that as well.
So do we need to, any objections? Without objections, should we instruct Ms. Fields to move forward ASAP on contacting the 7 names and letting them know that we're interested? Okay. Any other discussion? And if not, I will entertain a motion to ask Ms. Fields to move forward.
I'll make a motion to direct Ms. Fields to work on setting up the interviews. Do I need to add more?
The only addition that I would add to that, and I don't know if it's an amendment to that motion, is that time is of the essence, that we'd like to get these scheduled as soon as possible so that we can move forward. I don't want to rush the process, but I'll be honest, this is top of the list priority stuff that needs to get handled. So I'd like to include the language, the time is of the essence, in scheduling these.
Well, we have a motion. Do we want a second? And then we can, do we have a second on the motion? I didn't hear a second. Are we waiting for a second? Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for Ms. Fields to move forward on contacting. And then now discussion would be, we want to make this happen as soon as possible. Is that correct? But I think that goes, does that go without saying, Ms. Fields? Is it?
I just want to be sure as I contact these candidates, if I start booking them for 3 o'clock or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm definitely hearing a preference for afternoon, that all the board members would be available. So for example, if, today, early Monday, if I contact candidates, would it be reasonable to try to target March 31st, April 1st, and maybe April 2nd, which is Good Friday, setting these up virtually?
We could, I think
I
April
would,
2nd's the only day that's probably bad, but
yeah, I would agree, not including Good Friday. I don't want to step on anybody's ability to worship on that day.
So if we have 7 candidates, I guess I was thinking maybe a 2 o'clock and a 3 o'clock, or 3 o'clock and a 4 o'clock. So I'm trying to determine how many days or how many afternoons I would need to do this over, again, based on ensuring that all 5 of you would be available.
I think we can figure that out in terms of if we can, depending on their availability. I think you all want to say no more than 2 in one day, or no more than 3 in one day. How many? What's our bandwidth?
I'd say 2 is fair. I mean, 3 is probably not giving them the due diligence that they deserve for each of them. That
I'd agree. Yes, Ms. Field.
Typically, the candidate would adapt to the schedule of the panel. So I will pretty well fit them in to whatever the panel schedule is. I mean, we could hit an obstacle there, but that's usually what sets it. Though they normally accommodate.
Okay, is Commissioner Waters off? Is she here? Okay, I see. Okay, there we go. Okay. And in terms of virtually or in person, I'm okay to do in person, but I'll leave it up to the rest of you. If they're, and obviously if they're out of state, we're probably going to be doing Zoom. But if anyone wants to meet in person, I'm open to that.
I don't have an issue with that. I think there may be a scheduling, but not scheduling, but just so everybody can be moved into a particular time slot, you know, keeping everybody on Zoom so that we can jump on wherever we may be and handle it that way. That may be the easiest. I obviously don't have a problem if we do them in person, but if just jumping on to do a Zoom, we're all products of what's happened over the last year, so it's just become the norm for us. So I'd suggest just keeping them all that way, but that's just me.
And maybe during this first round of whittling it down, if we get it down to 2 or 3 obvious ones, then and maybe we can do it in person at that point. Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? And do we lost someone? Commissioner Thompson.
Ms. Fields, is that enough direction for you to move forward?
What I'm hearing is I will begin reaching out to the candidates, and I will target Tuesday, the 30th, the 31st, and the 1st, and start plugging people in. Between those 3 afternoons, there may be 1 or 2 afternoons that a candidate doesn't work, but I've got 3 afternoons to plug them into. So I think I'll be able to fit that together if those 3 afternoons work for all 5 members of the board. Okay.
Fine with me. Did the motion state that? Did that handle everything, Mayor?
I'll ask the solicitor. Do we need to reinforce that motion?
I think it's, sorry, Mayor. I think that what you've done is sufficient. She just needs direction to be able to move forward. I think she's clear on that direction.
Okay.
Thank you, Solicitor Ross.
We have a motion and a second to instruct Mrs. Fields to move forward with the interview process or start arranging interviews with the candidates. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner
Well, let me
Walder.
ask-
I don't, oh, sorry.
we don't have everyone here. Do we have a quorum? Is that, can we move forward? Okay, go ahead. Sorry. City Clerk.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
and Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, next action item is for approval to purchase 60 Dell desktop PCs from the IT department. Do we have, is Bobby on here, or Tom, you want to talk about it?
Bobby's on, but I can speak to it. Given where we sit today, we had monies in the budget, already budgeted for next year's equipment purchases from him. We just needed to step up the process earlier than that, and that those monies would be taken from the budget from next year's account to make that kind of a wash. So some of our PCs needed to be replaced, maybe 15. Bobby, I don't remember the number at this time soon.
We have a yearly rotation, and we have, what we like to do is go ahead and split that in half now. You can go ahead and take the budget, next year's upcoming budget out this year, and we'll be kind of using the next budget year's budget to replace half of the total machines at the city. Then that, in about 2 more budget cycles, we'll go back through and we'll replace the other half. So it puts you in a pretty good rotation.
Commissioner Thompson, sorry.
Mayor, do you need a motion to take this action?
We do.
Mayor, I would move to approve the purchase of 60 desktop computers as instructed by IT as needed, and have those purchased as soon as possible.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and we have a second. I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Okay, I don't see Commissioner Waldridge back. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And motion carries. And next and final action item is the TFCA MOA regarding Capitol View Park.
I see Mr. Pickens on the phone, Mayor. He can explain this. He's been on through the ins and outs of this whole thing, so.
Thank you.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Thank you. I apologize. I am on the phone and we're actually driving down the interstate, so hopefully I won't cut out on you. Yeah, this MOA, it originated several months ago. The principal from TFCA had contacted us, needing field space. Their program is growing, and they outgrew the area that they were playing, and so we told them at that point that it could be possible. We didn't confirm anything. Obviously, we had to work through the process. So then the MOA, was discussed, and it was brought forth to the Parks Board, the advisory board, and they reviewed, their request. And the main thing that kind of got tossed around was, do we charge or do we not charge, these entities? And so that was kind of the one of the sticking points, or really the only sticking point that didn't come to a decision. So then that's when I brought to Mr. Russell and Ms. Ross the discussion of that, and then we were all in agreement that instead of charging one and not charging another, and trying to KSU and different entities, we just decided as long as they're an educational entity and they're a nonprofit organization that we would not charge. So that was kind of the main sticking point. So then the MOA was approved by the advisory board, and then that's when we brought it to the city commission for review. And I believe that was the March work session, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of the long story short on that. And I'll be glad to take any questions or further explanation of that.
Commissioner Thompson.
Mayor and Commission, I have been in contact with the headmaster at the Frankfort Christian Academy. I know she sent an email that the commission was CC'd on, that Blair sent to us earlier today. I'm sorry, Ms. Hecker sent to us earlier today, and discussing the issues that TFCA is having. In the March work session, we approved an MOA to be used between Frankfort Independent and TFCA and the city. And the issues that have arisen since then, to my understanding, is that Frankfort Independent had not been made aware of the status of TFCA and them using the field. One of the coaches showed up last week at the same time that Frankfort Independent schools were practicing and asked about scheduling. They basically, I believe that the conversation was that Frankfort Independent will work out the scheduling between them, which was different than what the initial resolution was, which was that city staff was going to deal with scheduling. The other issue that came up was use of equipment. It's my understanding that Frankfort Independent had purchased all of the equipment from the Frankfort Soccer Alliance that had been in effect for several years, that included the county schools. So Frankfort Independent has a vested financial interest in the use of the equipment. TFCA has their own goals. They have no problem bringing their own goals to Capitol View Park to use the goals, if we're really worried about the goals, which I don't think is the real issue. What Frankfort Independent has made clear to TFCA that they are not interested in allowing TFCA the use of the scoreboard or the concession stand. Now, TFCA is not a large school. They are not a city school, but to not allow them to utilize something like the scoreboard is a little unfortunate. I do think that TFCA would be okay with some form of a lease that they enter into with Frankfort Independent to utilize certain aspects. But, I have an issue with Frankfort Independent saying thou shalt not use the concession stand or the upstairs of the concession stand for any reason, when that's our stuff. That's the city of Frankfort's property. And when we made an agreement to allow TFCA to use it, I think we obligated ourselves to do just that, to allow them to utilize all of the aspects. Now, we obviously didn't take into consideration the financial aspects that Frankfort Independent had put forward over the last couple of years, and perhaps that financial interest needs to be worked out. And in fact, I think probably the best thing is to get city staff, TFCA, Frankfort Independent all in the same room, and let's hash something out. We're kind of talking around a couple of entities that aren't even present to talk about it. But I want to make clear that, Capitol View Park is a leased property that the city of Frankfort has interest in. And everything that goes on Sauer Field is an interest of the city of Frankfort. And we didn't necessarily give up those rights to marshal those assets and make sure that individuals who want to use those couldn't necessarily use those. by making this agreement. So whatever we end up doing, and I do think the best thing to do is to get everybody in the same room and work it out. Whatever we end up agreeing, I think Mr. Russell and Mr. Pickens would agree that the best thing is for everybody to understand that this is city property and we are making decisions what's best. And if that includes a side lease agreement between the TFCA and Frankfort Independent, then so be it. But I think those things need to be worked out, and we probably need those parties at the table so that Solicitor Ross can help us create an MOA that all parties agree to. Sorry, I'm long-winded, but that's what I think at this point.
Commissioner Unger. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah, Commissioner Thompson, I do totally agree. I think we actually should revoke that MOU with TFCA in order to get everyone back together and revise, redraft a contract with TFCA, and also Frankfort Independent Schools does currently, I don't think, have a contract with the city. Yeah, bring everyone to the table to discuss it because it is tricky. The state owns the park. We own part of the property, the building, part of the scoreboard, and then I'm not exactly sure all that Frankfort Independent School owns. So it's a sort of muddy situation. So we definitely do need to get everyone to discuss this. So,
Mr. Russell.
Mayor, if we could, let's ask Ms. Ross to expound on the situation, because I believe Commissioner Unger is right. We have a 2018 contract signed that mentions soccer and the old soccer alliance. So I think Laura would be able to direct us on how best to get through this. And as Commissioner Thompson said, I have directed Mr. Pickens to be kind of the negotiator, the scheduler. So we've got a neutral party involved in the middle of that so we can all get to the same place. And that's what we're ultimately all after.
Okay. Solicitor Ross.
Actually, I think everybody has said it pretty well and described the situation, but I will say we do have a 2018 contract with Frankfort Independent Schools. It sets forth various provisions regarding baseball fields, softball fields, et cetera, but it does refer to an agreement with the Alliance for use of the soccer fields rather than setting out any terms. And of course, since that alliance has been disbanded, that means Frankfort Independent Schools currently does not have an agreement regarding those soccer fields with the city of Frankfort. So I think that what you all are suggesting is to revoke the agreement, the approval of the agreement that was given at the March work session for the purpose of revisiting all of this and coming up with a better agreement, including one that involves Frankfort Independent Schools for moving forward with use of the fields and making sure we include all of the terms that everyone needs, and we address scheduling in a way that's going to make sense for all parties involved.
Perfect. Commissioner Thompson.
Totally agree, Commissioner Unger. I think that's the proper thing to do. I will say, though, that, and I think Solicitor Ross will agree with me, that if we revoke the MOA and TFCA were to want to litigate the issue, we are setting ourselves up for an issue that could be brought up. That we had an agreement, and then we revoke that agreement. I think it's the best thing to do. I think bringing Frankfort Independent in and TFCA and everybody all together at the same table is the best thing. Should have happened first. But we all need to be aware, if we revoke this agreement and TFCA, which I don't think they will, lawyers up and says, we had an agreement and we feel that it should be enforced, that could be something that could bite us in the backside. I don't think that is the case. I have every bit of faith in Ms. Tigas, who I've known for many years. I don't think that's their position. They just want everybody to agree and come to a resolution. But we did form an agreement, and we did agree to this. So it's something that could bite us. I don't think it will, but it's something we should at least consider.
Okay, I'll ask on that. On that agreement, and I don't know if we have a signed agreement yet, and this is where Ms. Ross will help, but do we have a 30-day out on that?
We do have a 30-day out on the contract, but I wasn't aware, and perhaps someone else has additional information, that it had actually been signed by both parties, which is why we are revoking approval rather than using the more ominous termination clause within the agreement, or from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
I don't know that. I didn't know that to be the case, that it had been executed. I just following through on the information from TFCA, so it may not have been signed and executed by them.
I'll be happy to follow.
And I think this is the right thing. We inadvertently, I think, put one. We have a school that's been playing there. We did not have an agreement, and we provide an agreement to another school system. And I think we need to make sure everybody's on it. And again, I don't want to get down in the weeds on this. I don't think it's commission's place to get into the, who gets what and who does what. But I do think we need to make it get back to the drawing board, so to speak. And this is the way to do it. Mr. Russell.
Mr. Pickens, do you have a signed agreement? I just want to make sure whether we have received that or not.
Well, yeah, I need to check my email. She sent an email earlier just this afternoon, but I'm not sure if the agreement was in there and signed. To my knowledge, their last board meeting was on the 22nd, and I could be wrong. I'd have to go back and check and refer. I don't think it was signed then. But she did send an email this afternoon, but I would need to double check to see if it had a signed agreement in it or not. And I can do that very quickly.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah, I just got information that what she sent to Mr. Pickens included the signed agreement. I know it makes no difference at this point, but the agreement has been signed and returned as of this morning.
So we are entertaining a motion to terminate the agreement then, is that correct? Or exercise our 30 days?
I apologize. I can't get the agreement to pull up on my computer. Just 1 second. I do need to check that clause. I wasn't aware that we had a signed agreement. Would you all actually entertain a brief recess to give me time to take a look at that?
I will entertain a motion for recess.
I make a motion, we take a recess.
5 minutes, 10 minutes? Okay.
5 minutes, fair?
And motion is for a 5-minute recess. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. See you in 5. Everyone. And let's see, we're still discussing the TFCA MOA regarding Capitol View Park. And Solicitor Ross, do you have any
Yes,
information?
thank you, Mayor. I did get a chance to pull a copy of the agreement so that I could see it. And at this point, if we do have a board approved signed agreement on behalf of TFCA, then if you all still wish to end this contract, then I do think you're going to have to exercise the termination clause. So if you're moving forward with that, we would need a motion to terminate the agreement with TFCA by directing the solicitor to send 30 days written notice per the agreement.
Commissioner Thompson.
I would move to terminate the agreement and direct Solicitor Ross to notify TFCA of that issue immediately. I would, and I'll leave that motion as it is, and then I'll make a follow-up motion after.
We have a motion and a second. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? I think we discussed it, but I'll ask clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldridge is still not here. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And motion carries. Commissioner Thompson.
I would make a motion to direct city staff to immediately make contact with Frankfort Independent Schools and the Frankfort Christian Academy, along with Solicitor Ross, to draft corresponding MOAs for both school systems and to immediately require scheduling needs for both schools by city staff. That's my motion. As a side note, I will say that these programs are currently in season, so we want to make sure that we don't cause any interruptions to that. So that's why the time is of the essence in this agreement.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. I guess I have a question on that motion. How specific do we need to be in that motion? Do we just need to direct staff to do it? Do we need to require the city to do the scheduling, or just let them handle that on their own?
I believe that's up to you all, Mayor, whether or not you want to having to actually be the one that does the scheduling.
And I'll ask, maybe Commissioner Thompson knows this, so the Alliance, the city handled the scheduling on that. Is that correct?
It's my understanding.
If they work that part out, it'll be the same type of situation, which is so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes. And that motion carries. And that's the only action items we have for today. Hopefully it wasn't too painful for a Friday afternoon. I appreciate everyone for jumping on this for us. And without any further action items, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
So we can.